Hi, welcome everyone to this presentation on the history and evolution of the Christian Church. The learning objectives for this video is, at the end of this listening to this video, you will be able to define and describe the word church from different perspectives. You will be able to identify the important milestones in the evolution of the Christian Church as we see it today. You will be able to mention the important events in all of these milestones. Let's look at the two words Christianity and church. Christianity in a general sense is understood as a monotheistic religion which follows the life, death and teachings of Jesus Christ who lived in Nazareth 2000 years ago. The church, generally we refer to it as a building where Christians come to worship. It's a public place of worship. The other way of understanding church is that it's an organized body of religious believers. The word has evolved actually. The word church has evolved. In Greek, it has come from ecclesia, which literally means the called out ones. In early English, which derived from the Greek word kurios, kuriakon was used to say a dedicated place of worship, a place dedicated to the Lord. So, church means a place or a people dedicated to the Lord. In the Bible, the body of Christ that he nourishes and cares for as he does himself is referred to as the church, as you can read in Ephesians chapter 5. There's another reference to universal church in the Bible, which is the all baptized Christians. By one Spirit we are all baptized into one body. So the reference is given in 1 Corinthians. The church is like the physical manifestation of Christ, that is his body. In the Orthodox marriage ceremony, if you listen to the liturgy, you can hear this concept being explained to the relationship between the man and the wife. The liturgy of marriage sings like this: Sabhayam Tirusabhayami Nyan Atyunnadanude Manavati. As we studied in our earlier classes, the early church was followers of the Christ meeting together. It used to be groups of people that met at houses of the leaders. The other word used for those kind of groups is congregations. Later on, specific places were set apart for worship, and we have constructed buildings and we have the churches like we have today. Let's now look at some historical landmarks of the evolution of the church. The Pentecost and the growth of the church, which is documented in Acts chapter 1, is the first landmark of the formation of the church. The selection of deacons and the conversion of soul that followed, documented in Acts chapter 6, chapter 9 and chapter 22, form the next important landmark. Then there is the Council of Jerusalem, which happened in AD 50, again documented in Acts chapter 15. Then we were in the period of the tribulations, a lot of persecutions from both Jews and the Romans, till the Milan Declaration, which happened in AD 313. This went on. Then there is a story of the constitution of the Holy Bible, which took place in through years and kind of culminated in AD 367 when Athanasius the bishop codified the New Testament as you see it today. Please refer to our earlier presentations for details on the development of the Bible. The Milan Declaration was proclaimed by both emperors of the Western and Eastern Roman divisions, the Emperor Licinius and Emperor Constantine. It was made in AD 313. This gave a big liberation to the Christians, and the persecution of Christians ended. And Christianity became a community of political favor. But what happened is the spiritual favor declined. Political control and material advancement became the target or the goal of many Christians. As a result, the spiritual fervor in the church decayed at that time. This was corrected to a great extent by the development of the monasticism, which you will learn about later. The great councils and the division of the church forms the next landmark. The first council was held in Nicaea in AD 325. Second one was in Constantinople in AD 381. And the third one was in Ephesus in AD 431. We refer to this creed in the we refer to these councils in the creed we recite. Please go and listen to it again. We also refer to these councils in the fifth Tubden, or the intercessory prayer we recite during the Holy Qurbana. Now let's look at how divisions happened in the church. Very early in the church there was two political divisions, the Western Roman Empire and the churches in Western Roman Empire, and the Eastern Roman Empire with Eastern churches. But as you can see in the map, it is shown in red color. The Western Roman Empire is shown in red color, and the Eastern is shown in blue color. The Western Empire had Rome as their authority and Pope had the authority, whereas the churches in the Eastern side had more regional authority, but they were in doctrinal and mutual recognition with the West. More doctrinal divisions happened later in the church. The Oriental churches, that is the churches belonging to Egypt, Alexandria, Syria, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Armenia and India, broke off from the rest of the Eastern churches early on in AD 451 due to a doctrinal controversy about the humanity and divinity of Jesus Christ. Later on in 1054 AD, another big divide happened between the Western and the Eastern churches, which were already different in languages. The divide was more about doctrinal differences and authority of the Pope, which the Eastern churches decided not to agree to. Then let's look at more of the historical evolution now. The original development of monasticism started beginning from Egypt. Early leaders of monasticism came from Egyptian monasteries. Saint Antonius and Saint Pachomius were the early leaders. And as you can see in this picture, these are the regions where monasticism spread and came. The kind of liturgy that we use in Qurbana today has been given to us or developed through these monastic fathers. The time of crusades was another important landmark in the history of the Christian church. It's actually a dark landmark. It's a dark history because it was a war between Christians and the Islamic forces. It's against the principles of love actually, but the Christian kingdoms waged war against the Islamic invasion holding a cross in hand. That is why it is known as crusades. So the period was from AD 1095 to AD 1291. The Reformation movement is another important landmark in the history of the church. It's also connected to how division happened further. John Wycliffe and John Huss of the 14th century were the initiators, but Martin Luther in 1517 formalized through developing a movement called Reformation movement. And Ulrich Zwingli and John Calvin followed steps. So they were the leaders of this Reformation movement. The result was the Protestant Christianity as we see it today. The international travel and colonization happened way later after Reformation, and as a result of it, Reformation spread from the Western churches to the Eastern churches also. Now all the Reformed churches are present all over the world. And availability of the printed Bibles to everyone and self-interpretations produced Pentecostal and charismatic movements early in the 20th century. So you can see how the different multiple number of churches as we see it today, how they evolved. The ecumenical movement is the next very important landmark in the history of the evolution of the church. Ecumenism actually derived from the word oikoumene in Greek, which literally means the whole inhabited earth. So it's a vision of the whole inhabited earth coming under the love of God that ecumenical movement was motivated by. The reformist Bible studies, which led to the missionary movement and the missionary conferences, is what really led to the origin of the ecumenical movement. Ecumenical reunion of churches has started happening since then. The Edinburgh Conference, which happened in 1910, was the beginning. Life and work movement and faith and order movement were two movements that branched off from the World Missionary Conference in Edinburgh in 1910, which was followed by another conference in 1937, which led to the formation of the World Council of Churches in 1948. There are representatives from about 147 churches all over the world in that ecumenical council of the World Council of Churches. So thank you for listening to this. I hope this has given you some idea of what it is to be a church in the church, what it means to be a church, and what is the story of the church as we see it today. Thank you.